Last week, I ran a workshop on anxiety for the community that I live in, and the following is an edited back version of that workshop that was live. This is not meant to be a substitute for therapy, and if you do need to seek therapy, please reach out to myself or whoever your provider is to receive the help that you need. Please like and subscribe this video, and I hope you enjoy the content. I've been specializing in mental health for about 20 years, and I love workshops and I also do school trainings teaching mental health in schools to teachers. So I love this kind of thing because I feel like everyone should have access to this kind of information. So I really love to share it with people. So today we're going to obviously move quite quickly because we don't have a huge amount of time, but we're going to start with the difference between anxiety, overwhelm, and stress. Then we're going to move into what is anxiety and how does it work, so we actually understand what's happening in the body. And then we're going to look at the 3-step process, which is how you get from freaking out to, oh, okay, I think I'm okay. And then I'm going to give you 9 brain hacks to trick your brain into calm. So the main differences between stress, overwhelm, and anxiety, and we don't want to spend too much time on it, but it's good just to know what it is stress is going to be an external pressure. Okay, so stress is an external pressure. Overwhelm is when your capacity to cope fails and you feel like you can't cope anymore. Whereas anxiety is an internal fear of what might happen. Okay, so just to differentiate between the three, because today we're going to focus solely on anxiety. So what is anxiety? Put your hand up in the room if you've ever felt anxiety at some point. Okay, so most people come to these workshops because they worry about their own anxiety. Some people come because they worry that they have family or friends that have anxiety. Sometimes you just see someone kind of in a spin and freaking out and you wish that you could help, but actually you don't know what to do. For anyone that's been following me on social media, you'll see my latest article and one of my videos, I think, was about why telling someone to just breathe is not the answer. Okay, there's a 3-step process and breathing is not step 1. Okay, so we will go through what the process is today, but breathing is not step 1, which is also kind of why I wanted to do this workshop, so that people know the 3-step process in its correct order so that you can actually be helpful to other people and be helpful to yourself. Okay, so anxiety is when your mind races ahead and drops itself into worst case scenario. Okay, so something happens or you have a thought, your mind goes straight ahead into worst case scenario and it stays there. You start then acting and behaving according to this worst case scenario that you have imagined is your truth. Okay, so anxiety is when your brain races ahead too quickly and lands in worst case scenario. You believe it to be true, so all the anxiety and the freak out is around that thing, and you start behaving and acting as if that were true. Okay, so that's kind of what anxiety looks like in very, very basic terms, and I will explain it in a bit more in scientific brain terms in a minute, but just to give you an idea, that's what happens when we have anxiety. It's normal. Our brain does go that fast, and I'll explain to you in a minute why and how, but the brain does go that fast. So there's nothing wrong with you that your brain shot out ahead into disaster land. That's just what anxiety is. And some people cope with it better and some people struggle to cope with it. The biggest question I'll put in capital letters on my piece of paper is why? Because I think that's really important, and I think that's what people want to know is why the hell does this happen? Because it's really, really annoying. So the why is our brain is still running on old software. Going back to hunter-gatherer days, our brain is still running on that old software where it needed to have that threat detection system in place to survive. So there were real threats back then. You're out in your living environment, there's a rustle behind the bushes, your threat detector system alarm goes off because you need to know, is this an animal behind the bush that's going to kill me? So the threat detection system needs to be immediate. It needs to be that fast to keep you alive. Okay, so that's the old sort of reptilian brain system that unfortunately in today's world we are all still running on. Okay, so our brain doesn't know the difference between there is a lion behind the bush that is about to eat us and we got an email from our boss. Both of them set off the same alarm. So that doesn't work, does it? So that's sort of what's happening. The problem is that the brain still needs to do that. Okay, so the brain will send two messages at the same time. And I've put a few words here on the board that might feel a bit complicated, or for people that don't know these words, so that you can easily assess what they are. The brain sends a message in two different directions at the same time. Okay, so there's a threat, and your brain sends a message to the amygdala and the prefrontal cortex at the same time. It needs to do both, and it will automatically do both whether you want it to or not. Okay, the amygdala is the threat detector. That's the alarm system. So I get an email from my boss, or there's a line behind the bush. Either way, my brain sends a message to the amygdala, the threat detector system, that says, ah, shit, I'm going to die. What's going on? Help, 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 help. Okay, what do I do? At the same time, the brain sends a signal to the prefrontal cortex. Okay, that's the part that sits here behind the forehead, and that's your thinking brain. Logic, rationale, conscious thought comes from here, from the prefrontal cortex. Okay, where's the problem? The problem is it's called the fast and the slow. It goes quickly to the amygdala, which it has to in case you are in actual danger. It goes a bit slower to the prefrontal cortex. So it takes longer to reach your rational, logical thinking brain than it does to reach your freak out brain. Does that all make sense so far? Okay, so there's a threat, and your brain goes alarm system, thinking brain, but it gets the alarm system faster, and the thinking brain hasn't quite caught up yet to say, oh, hey, it's okay. The alarm can calm down now. You're at home, the smoke alarm goes off, and it's loud, and two people are in the house, and you both jump. You both get a fright. The amygdala on both of you catches it and goes, uh-oh, something's wrong. Okay? So for both of you, you jump. Okay? For one of you, the prefrontal cortex, the thinking brain, catches up and says, oh, it's just burnt toast. Everything's okay. Okay? Whether they say it out loud or they think it, it's just burnt toast. Everything's okay. They send a message. The prefrontal cortex then says, everything's okay. You can calm down now. And that person will notice physically their body calming down, which starts the loop of, oh, there is no threat. I can calm down now. And then you get in the loop of calm. Okay? The second person who's in the exact same scenario, the smoke alarm goes off, they see the burnt toast, and the prefrontal cortex says, oh, it's just burnt toast. But the person says, well, I'm 95% sure it's just burnt toast, but 5% of me probably should stay on alert just in case there's something else to worry about. Just in case some bread fell in and it's going to re-spark and start a fire, just in case the PowerPoint's not secure, just in case, and I'm going to stay a little bit alert just in case. That person's body then feels like, uh-oh, I'm not calming down, I'm staying alert. Then maybe there really is something to worry about. And then they get stuck in that loop of, well, if there's something to worry about, maybe I should be alert. Uh-oh, my body's not calming down, and they get themselves completely worked up into anxiety. So you've got two people experiencing the exact same thing. One person, prefrontal cortex, has said, you're safe. And the other person was like, I think I'm safe, but I'll stay a little bit alert. Does that make sense on the amygdala and prefrontal cortex of how that actually works? Another big question that people then say is, well, why does mine want to stay alert and my friend just goes straight back into calm? That's not fair. Legitimate question. I've asked that 1,000 times. Like, why me? Why do I have to have the anxiety? Why can't someone else have the anxiety? It's a mixture of a lot of things. There isn't one real answer, which I hate. I like real answers. There isn't one real answer. Okay. It's a mixture of genetics and upbringing. It's a mixture of past experiences. It's a mixture of other events that you've been through. It's a mixture of other times that you thought you were okay, but maybe you weren't. So your alarm system goes, yeah, but I thought I was okay last time and I wasn't, so I must stay alert. Also, things like having a bad day or feeling stressed. How many of you have experienced a day where you think, I'm feeling a bit sensitive today and I'm a bit jumpy at a lot of different things? Yeah. And so on those days, something that mightn't have raised your alarm system so high really sets you off because you're not quite feeling yourself. Okay, does that all then make sense? Yeah, because I want just to make sure you understand what's happening in the brain and why. So, of course, why you're all here is the what can we do about it part. The last thing on that before we get into the actual process is the amygdala, so the threat detecting part of your brain. It doesn't learn from facts, so you can't teach it a fact. You can't tell it something. Okay, so the amygdala, the threat detection system, doesn't learn from facts. It learns from experience. So it needs to experience that everything went a bit crazy, your alarm system went off, but at the end of that event, you were safe. And you need to experience, not just know logically, because there's no logic in anxiety, but you need to experience that you were safe in the end to believe it and to know it for next time. So going back to the smoke alarm example, if you were ever in a situation like that, okay, and the smoke alarm did go off and you did panic and you couldn't calm down, rather than leave the situation or try and kind of ignore that it's going on or remove yourself, sit in it. Okay, sit in it to the end until you realize, oh, I am okay. Nothing happened. I am safe. Because your amygdala needs to experience that to know for next time that they are safe. Okay, I don't recommend that if you're in an actual dangerous situation. Please don't sit in that. But in something that is not going to bring you any danger, sit with it. Okay, people often talk about, oh, I'm an avoidant, or usually our partner is an avoidant. When we avoid these things, we never experience these things, and our brain doesn't learn safety. Okay, so we need to learn by experience. So we're going to move into the 3-step process. Okay, I am in anxiety, or I'm having a panic attack, or I can feel my anxiety rising. That's when you do this 3-step process that will actually bring you from anxious to calm. Okay, so like I said before, anxiety feels like your brain or your mind is running far ahead. It's landing in worst case scenario and you're kind of stuck there. So for example, some of you may have experienced, you're trying to get your visa to Thailand. You're trying to get your DTV visa, right? You've heard all the horror stories and you've heard a few good stories, and you do your paperwork and you go to Vietnam or wherever to sit and wait. Anxiety would be, oh my God, what if I don't get it? What if my paperwork's not good enough? What if they say no? That's all stressful, and that's stress that you can handle, and these are real questions of things that really might happen. Anxiety is when you take it next level and go, they're going to say no. They're never going to let me back into Thailand again. I can't even come to collect my things. I've got a partner or a pet or a job, and I'm never going to be able to go to Thailand again. I don't know where I'm going to live. I've got no home. my life is a disaster. I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm never going to earn money. And you can just spiral completely as far as you choose to spiral. That's then anxiety. Okay. Step number one is grounding. Okay. Why I say that is if my mind has raced ahead into, I'm never going to get a job again. I can't go back to Thailand. All my things are there. My life is over. And you tell me to breathe, I'm going to give you the dirtiest look you've ever seen in history. Okay. I can't breathe because my brain has raced ahead and it's sitting here. And my body, where I breathe, is here. So I can't breathe because my brain and my body are in a bit of a disconnect right now. So they need to come back together to connect so I can breathe. Grounding can be if you're outside, take off your shoes and literally put your feet on the ground. If you cannot, you can put your hands on the ground. If for some reason you can't do that, your skin, your body is also grounding. So you can grab your arms or you can grab your thighs. And you grab them quite hard. Let your body know that you are grabbing. Whilst you are grabbing your arms or your legs, you name 3 things that you see out loud. Okay, so if I was doing step 1 now, I would be, I see my notebook, I see my cup, I see my glasses. I see my notebook, I see my cup, I see my glasses. I see my notebook, I see my cup, I see my glasses. I can't look at something, cognitively know what it is, and say it out loud without being in the present. Okay, it's not possible. So when I do that, I grab my arms or my legs or the ground if you're outside, and I out loud say 3 things that I see. If you're in a public place and you don't want to, you can do it very quietly, but it does need to pass your lips. So you can say, okay, so it needs to actually pass my lips, but it doesn't need to be loud that the whole room looks at you and says, why are you saying, I see my glasses, I see my cup, I see my notepad, okay? But it needs to pass your lips. That is step 1 that brings you back. Step 2 is now that I'm back, you'll almost want to gasp for air because you probably hadn't been breathing till then, and you'll be like, that is when you do the breathing. Okay, so step 1, grounding. Grab something of your body or the ground. Name 3 things out loud that you see. Step 2, now I can breathe. Okay, and breathe for as long as you feel that you need to actually calm your system. So it depends how anxious your body feels. For some people, their heart's going too fast. For some people, their skin's clammy. Some people need to go to the toilet. So however you experience it, breathe enough that that passes, okay? And then you can go into step 3. Step 3 is the reality check, okay? Step 3 is looking at what is true factually, okay? Thoughts are not facts. Just because you thought it doesn't mean it's true. And just because you thought it 10,000 times and kept saying it to yourself still doesn't make it true. Okay? Really, really important to differentiate between thoughts and facts. And sometimes not so easy, but really, really important to do that differentiation. If you're struggling to do the differentiation, if you're really holding on to, no, but this is true, even though it's kind of a thought, a quick question you can ask yourself is, if I was in the court of law, if I was in a court case, would this stand up in trial? Or would the judge or the lawyer or whoever be like, you can't prove that. That is not factually correct. That is just your thought process. Okay? So that's a good little trick you can do if you're not sure if it's a thought or a fact. Going back to the visa. I'm in Vietnam or whatever. I'm waiting for my visa to be approved or not approved. I've gone through the whole anxiety freak out of my life is now over as I know it. I do the grounding. I do the breath. I come back to calm. And then I ask myself, what are the facts? So if you are sitting in Vietnam waiting for your visa and you are now looking at what are the facts, someone give me some facts about what are the actual facts. I'm sitting in Vietnam awaiting my visa. What are some facts? I'm in Vietnam. I'm in Vietnam. Great. Can you see how there are no other facts and how everything else was in your head? All of the story is a story that you made up, thought it was true, went into worst case scenario disaster land, started behaving accordingly, when actually pretty much the only fact is I'm in Vietnam. You could probably say I've put in my application. Everything else is a thought or a fear or a what if. You still don't know what the outcome's going to be, and we don't like not knowing outcomes. But we can also get on with our day and go for dinner and, I don't know, play some pickleball or go for a swim in the beach in Da Nang or go to Hoi An and go to the market. You can still do all of those things. And the result will come when the result comes, regardless of what you do or how much you freak out. If you are actually in anxiety, in panic, to know grounding, breathe, reality check. You can practice these things in real life with things that maybe are a little less anxiety provoking. So maybe something that would normally maybe give you a bit of anxiety, just practice the 3-step process with that so you can see how it feels. Because the instruction of this 3-step process is obviously quite simple. I'm giving you 3 steps and that's quite easy. The doing is by no means easy. Imagine you're in an anxiety attack or a panic attack, or you feel yourself going into a spiral. It's not going to be like, oh, that's right, I'll just do the 3-step process. It's not as easy to implement, okay? But it is possible. I always say with clients, just remember step 1. Remember the grounding. Mostly because that was the feedback from clients is, oh my God, I was freaking out and I couldn't remember the 3 steps, but I remembered step 1. Okay, so step 1 is going to bring you back into the present moment. And without even probably meaning to, you're going to start breathing. Then your cognitive, logical brain, your prefrontal cortex has come back online. And you may then even remember what's the reality check. So, if nothing else, remember the grounding technique so that you can bring yourself back into grounding. If you find that you do suffer from a lot of anxiety attacks and you are often around the same 1 or 2 people, whether they're colleagues, friends, partners, it's worth telling them, this is what I need. Can you just help me do some grounding and then I'll take over and do the rest? So that they know what to do for you also if you have someone in your life, whether it's a colleague, someone that you see regularly. I'm very anti the just breathe, because someone is asking you to do the very basic thing of breathing that you feel like you can't do right now. So if you're already feeling anxious and then you can't do the one instruction that you think should be basic to all humans, it makes you feel 1,000% worse. So that's why we don't want to tell someone just breathe. We can maybe breathe with them, but do some grounding and be like, okay, just look around, tell me what you see. That would be the greatest thing to do for a friend. Tell me what you see. Get them to tell you what they see. And then if you're the friend, even if you don't say it, you start doing some deep breathing. We mimic each other. Okay, so if I'm doing deep breaths, if I start talking really fast now, all of you are going to start feeling a bit. If I start slowing down now, all of you are going to start feeling either relaxed or a bit sleepy. Okay, we mimic each other. Does everyone understand the 3-step process? I want to make sure that it makes perfect sense to everyone. Yep. Can you all maybe just close your eyes for a minute and picture a scenario for yourself of something that generally makes you anxious or something that has made you anxious in the past? Please don't choose something intense that you're all going to start going into panic mode, but just something that maybe you've dealt with that you can understand how you might apply the 3-step process and see how that might actually work in your real life. This is the 9 brain hacks. There are 20, 30, 40, 50 brain hacks. I picked 9. I picked 7, but I couldn't decide. So I picked 9 brain hacks that I think are good, that I believe work, and I picked 9 that are all evidence based in either CBT, EMDR, Navy SEAL teams. So these are all things that are actually proven to work. Hijack your brain back to calm. We will try and do most of them. Some require items that I don't have here, but the ones that don't, we're going to do them right now. They're all super easy. First one, humming. Okay, humming. Super simple. Anyone can hum. Why do we hum? Stimulates the vagus nerve. For those that don't know what the vagus nerve is, in a very basic explanation, it's our built-in brake system. It puts things on brake. We're starting to freak. We need the brakes to go on. That's the vagus nerve. We want to stimulate or activate the vagus nerve because the vagus nerve puts on the brakes and says, hey, you're good, you're calm, everything's okay. So anything that activates or stimulates the vagus nerve is something that we want. Okay? So humming stimulates the vagus nerve. The humming starts the vibration in the mouth, goes into the throat, goes down to the vagus nerve, and it's an instant cut direct to the vagus nerve. Okay? So can we do 10 seconds of humming? 1, 2, 3. Relaxing. Brain hack number 1, humming. Super easy. You can do it anywhere, anytime. If you start feeling your body getting a bit like, just hum around the house, hum in the street, hum on your bike. Number 2, butterfly hug. You grab both sides and you tap right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right, for roughly 30 seconds in a good rhythm. So keep going for 30 seconds. This activates both sides of the brain. Okay, so we want to have both sides of the brain activated, quietens the alarm system, increases prefrontal cortex activity, which switches your brain back online. The rhythm mimics REM sleep. Very calming. Okay, so just doing that. So if you're at home, even if you're at work, no one's going to necessarily notice if you do that. Okay, ice. So you grab a piece of ice and put it on your wrist. Also your face, but I don't know. Go wrist. Wrist or face. But you put the ice and you hold it for 15 seconds. The cold is also going to trigger this vagus nerve into calm. It is an immediate shortcut from ice, vagus nerve, calm, whether you want it or not. So a lot of these are good because you don't have to do anything. Like you don't have to think your way through. This will do it for you. Okay, so get some ice, whether it's on the face or on the wrist. Face just feels a bit abrupt, intense. I'm not sure. So these are all the body first ones. You asked before about the body. So there's 4 that are body first. Okay, so these are the 4 that are body first. The 4th one of the body first is the box breath. I'm sure most people have heard of the box breath, where you imagine a box, you breathe in for 4, hold for 4, breathe out for 4, hold for 4. You can do less or more depending on your lung capacity. You know, if you're a meditator, you might want to do much more if that's too easy. If you're not into meditation or you have smaller lung capacity, you might want to do less. Okay. So I want everyone to just do even just 3 rounds now. Okay, so we're going to breathe in for 4, hold for 4, breathe out for 4, hold for 4. And go around twice on your own now without me. So this one has rhythm and structure. Okay, yeah. I've got to say, personally, I don't like this one either. I find holding for 4 quite stressful. And then I go into the panic of what's wrong with me? Why can't I do it? Isn't this what everybody does? And you can quickly get quite stressed out and go into anxiety. But if it doesn't work for you, there are plenty of others. It's interesting. And I agree. I prefer a much longer exhale. What's interesting with this one is its rhythm and structure. So the exhale activates or stimulates the vagus nerve, which is the calming one. And the predictable pattern sends the signal that everything's okay. So it's the 4-4-4-4 or 3-3-3-3. It's the predictable pattern that tells your brain everything's okay. Our brain, because you can see anxiety is usually the unknown. So when we have a pattern, our brain gets the message it's okay. So it's interesting that some people in the room don't like this one. I agree. And funnily enough, this is the Navy SEALs one. So it's interesting that this is the one that's the go-to, and a lot of lay people, as in just people like us, normal people, just don't like it. And there's no real reason why we do or don't like some. But so they're the 4 body ones. So we've got humming, butterfly hug, ice, box breath. Okay, so if you want to go body first, they're your 4. Then we have 2 sensory interruption ones. The first one is bite a lemon. Lemon or lime. Yeah. Imagine trying to be anxious while you've got a lime in your mouth. You can't. You literally can't. The shock of the saliva and that sensation is so overwhelming that the brain is forced to deal with only that. Okay, so if you're not a lemon lime person, then this one might actually work for you. So bite a lemon and it will just shock your system out of whatever loop it was in. Sucking on a lolly, chewing gum. Put your hand up if you can still eat when you're anxious, like if you can sit down and have a meal. For me, if I have anxiety, there's no way I'm eating. If you're in a full anxiety, if you are spiraling, chances are you can't eat. Okay, if you're in a full spiral, even the thought of food can make you feel sick. Okay, everyone feels anxiety differently. You can feel it in your heart rate, in your skin, in your gut, in your need to go to the toilet, in your gag reflex. We all feel it differently, but generally we can't eat when we're in full anxiety. So chewing gum or sucking a lolly, the movement and the saliva that it creates signals to your body, oh, I'm eating, I'm using all of the muscles and all the things involved in eating, I must be safe. So you're tricking your brain to say, I know you think you're not safe, but you are, because look, you're eating and you don't eat when you're anxious, so you must not be anxious. Okay, so some of these are just simple things. Just throw it in your mouth and let it do the work for you. The 3-step process is for when you're in full anxiety. These 9 hacks are for when you're feeling like, uh-oh, how am I doing? You know, I feel like I might be slipping, or I'm starting to get a bit anxious. I'm not saying that if you're in a full anxiety attack, having a piece of chewing gum is going to work. But if you feel anxiety coming, or something is coming up that you know you often do get anxious about, then these things can come into play. Okay, so the 2 sensory interruptions are lemon and chewing gum or sucking a lolly. The last grouping is cognitive interruption. So how do we interrupt the brain? Okay, so we've done body, we've done senses, and now we're going to do cognitive. We're going to count 1 with the thumb, and then we're going to use the thumb to count the rest. So 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, so practice that, and we're going to do it fairly quickly. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Can you feel your heart rate calm when you slow down? This occupies, this exercise, a lot of your brain. How much brain power did you just use to follow that instruction? Okay, and imagine I wasn't here and you had to think all of that. Okay, so you're kind of taking away all the space for anxiety because your brain is like, what the fuck? Okay, so this is all brain hijacking stuff. You're using all of your brain to use your hand to count, and then if you start fast and slow down, by the end you're like, ah. Okay, so you're slowing your breath and you're hijacking your brain to have full concentration on your hand. And again, rhythm. Brain likes rhythm. All of these kind of hijack your brain out of the loop that we can get into when we're feeling anxious. I wanted to do this one, but I feel like it'd be dangerous with so many people in the room, is walk backwards. Okay, so if you try and imagine walking backwards for say 30 seconds just around your apartment. And again, similarly, it forces the brain out of this loop because you have to concentrate. You can't just, it forces you out of autopilot. When you walk forward, you're in autopilot. You could walk to the end of the street and not even know that you did it. And you go, how did I get here? If you had to walk backward to the end of the street, it would hijack the brain, take you out of autopilot, and bring you back into the present moment completely to avoid falling over. Because remembering, anxiety is all forward thinking. Anxiety is all fear of the unknown, but fear of the moving forward future. So anything that brings you back into present is going to hijack that forward moving loop. This last one is 5. So again, naming out loud. 5 things that you see, 4 things that you feel. And I don't mean feel emotionally because that will send you back into spin. 4 things that you feel. I feel my top. I feel my hair on my neck. Okay, so feel physically. 5 things that you see, 4 things that you feel, 3 things that you hear, 2 things that you smell, 1 thing that you taste. This one systematically engages the 5 senses. Again, completely hijacks your brain into the present moment. You cannot name these things whilst you've got anxious thoughts and you're stuck in a thought loop that's going ahead. It is not possible. You have to be present in the moment to be able to do that. They're the 9, okay? So in today, what we've sort of covered is the difference between anxiety, stress, and overwhelm. Done a bit of an overview, hopefully in simple enough terms, on what is anxiety, how does it work in the brain, how does it work in the body, why does it do what it does, because it's very annoying, so why does it do that? Did some examples, looked at the 3-step process, which is our emergency exit. How do we use the 3-step process when we're feeling properly anxious to come back to calm? And then the fire preventions, so 9 additional brain hacks for when you're starting to feel a bit overwhelmed or stressed, or you feel anxiety coming, or you're about to enter an environment that you know normally brings you anxiety, to try and have those brain hacks with you. I always suggest trying all of them when you're at home or with friends or whatever you like, when you're feeling okay. Okay, because when we're feeling stressed, we're not going to be like, oh, that's right, I remember Romy gave me 9 brain hacks, let me just do one. You're not going to think of them. So you want to have experienced each one of these for yourself at home so that it's easier to recall and know which ones work and which ones don't. Like for some people, the box breath is, I don't like that. It actually doesn't make me feel good at all. So take that one out of the equation. And then just try the other ones. And you just keep trying one. On one day, one will work. And maybe on another day, that same one didn't work, but a different one did. You know, you play with them, you experience them, you get comfortable with them so that they're kind of on call, they're available to you whenever you need. Okay, so that summarizes all of that. Does anyone have any more questions? I was worried that people wouldn't turn up because they would feel too anxious to come, or they would feel outed by coming and that they would be uncomfortable by it. So I love you all for having the courage to turn up. Like, that's amazing, because I feel like it's really important information. And now it's information that you have for yourself forever and that you can share with your friends or loved ones if you feel that they need some of it.